Now, I don't want anybody to be disappointed. This is not a trash talk video, but some of the things that we have to say in this video are absolutely hilarious.
You can take this trash can out and stick it!
Hey, good morning. It's UncleLou here. Yeah, that's right. It's me, UncleLou, and I'm live for you on LouTube today. So thanks for watching. Really appreciate it also. And in addition to that as well, subscribe to this channel if you're not already. I post college football videos almost every single day of the year. A lot of them are even watchable. This one will be watchable, but I'm serious when I say this is not a trash talk video. Now, unfortunately, some of the things we have to say can be used as trash talk material, but that's really not the point of this video. I want to talk today about Tennessee, Miami, where they've been, where they're at now, and where they could go starting with this weekend. There's been a running joke in the college football world really for the last 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, going back quite a ways, really, about which team is quote unquote more back between Texas, Tennessee, and Miami. Now, the reasons these three teams get singled out for the who's more back debate, well, there's a few reasons, I think. All three of those teams have had periods throughout their history where they have been really, really good. Top of the college football world, good. Texas is one of the all-time winningest programs ever. They're a blue blood. They've got the national titles. They've got the All-Americans. They've got all that stuff. Texas is a household name in the college football world. Miami, of course, dominated the college football world from the mid to late 80s through the early 2000s, winning 5 national titles, putting 1 million players in the NFL, and becoming one of, if not the most notorious programs of all time during that period, for some good reasons and for some not so good reasons that are very well documented. And in the case of Tennessee, again, you're talking about one of the all-time winningest programs, a program that's been around forever, has a ton of SEC titles, several national titles, a bunch of All-Americans, bunch of players in the NFL, a part of some of the biggest games and biggest rivalries in football. You have Tennessee, Bama, Tennessee, Florida, Tennessee, Georgia, some of the all-time great games in the SEC. So there's a lot of teams that have struggled over the last 10 or 15 years, definitely more than those three. But those are the three biggest name programs really that have been down low, real low, for the last 10 or 15 years. And so there's sort of an ongoing debate in the college football world. Every offseason, all three of these fan bases, have some reason for optimism, some more than others, depending on the year. Maybe they finished the previous year strong. Maybe they got a new coach, a good recruiting class. They're happy with a QB, whatever the case. And they tend to go into a season riding high. More times than not, though, for all three of these teams, that has come crashing down at some point during the season. We're going to exclude Texas for the purpose of today's video because, well, they've already lost for this year. Now, one loss doesn't necessarily mean anything in any year, and particularly in this year. But I'm going to focus on Miami and Tennessee today. Both of these teams have looked pretty good so far this season. It's early. Tennessee's played 2 games. Miami's played 3. But both teams are undefeated, right? Both teams are ranked. And I've got some stuff written down here, but that's unusual in and of itself over the last 10 or 15 years that they're just both ranked. And most importantly, both of these teams have huge games this weekend. Miami, of course, travels to Clemson to take on a top 5 Tiger team in Death Valley. And Tennessee travels down to Athens to take on a top 5 Georgia team. Both of these teams are desperate for a big win. We're going to talk about some of the struggles they've had in big games over the last few years. But who's more back? Now, clearly, this question will be answered after this weekend. If one of these two teams can win this weekend, clearly they're more back than the other, right? It's possible they could both lose, and we can still determine, okay, who's closer to that upper echelon of college football based on the final score of the games or how the games go or things like that. But before we look forward to what might happen with these two teams in this weekend's game and how big of a game it is, we have to look back to see sort of how these two teams got to where they're at. And we've got to highlight some of the struggles these teams have had over the last 10 or 15 years. And again, this is not a trash talk video. If it was, I would be holding my phone in my hand and pacing back and forth and yelling and screaming and hurting your feelings. And that's not my intention in today's video. But we're going to start with Miami. And I went back to 2006. So this covers the entire time that Miami has been in the ACC. Now, there's some notable things about Miami in the ACC that I think most people know. Most importantly, they have yet to win the ACC. Miami dominated the Big East for a long time when it was on its run back in the 90s and the early 2000s. That conference sort of crumbled and went away. Miami eventually joined the ACC. They have yet to win the ACC. In fact, they've only won the division one time. That was in 2016, 2017, 2018, whatever it was. I believe it was 2017. Lost in the ACC title game. So yet to win the ACC. You're talking 15, 16 years yet to win the ACC. Only won the division. One time. Here's Miami's win totals. Okay, going back to 2008. We'll start with 2008 and we'll work up to last year, which was 2009. 2008, 7 wins. Followed that up with 5 wins, 7 wins, 9 wins, 7 wins, 6 wins, 7 wins, 9 wins, 6 wins, 8 wins, 9 wins, 10 wins, 7 wins, 6 wins. Not good. Not good. 1 double-digit win season in that time frame. That was the year you won the division in the ACC before losing in the title game, 2017. In that year, Tennessee was 4-8. And we're going to talk about Tennessee some more here in a minute. Miami has not won a conference title since 2003. And going back to 2006, Miami has played 12 top 10 teams. 12 times Miami has been matched up against a top 10 team. They've won 2 of those since 2006. The most recent coming in 2017 when I believe it was Notre Dame. They beat at a night game in the regular season. So 2-10, their last 12 games against the top 10 opponents. 1 double-digit winning season in the last 14 years. 1 division title since joining the ACC. No conference titles since joining the ACC. And listen to where Miami has finished the season in the AP poll. And this is unbelievable. This is unbelievable. We're going to start with 2008 and work up to last year, 2009. This is where Miami has finished the season ranked in the AP poll. Unranked, 19th. Unranked, 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 20th, 13th. That was 2007 when they won the division. Unranked in 18, unranked in 19. Since 2008, 1, 2, 3. Since 2008, Miami has finished the season ranked 3 times. That's unbelievable. And again, this is not a trash talk video. This is all to set up how big these upcoming games could be this weekend for both these programs, Tennessee and Miami. And again, I already mentioned the win totals. I'll run through them again. From 2008 to 2019, you finished the season ranked 3 times. Here was your win totals. 7, 9, 7, 6, 7, 9, 6, 8, 9, 10, 7, 6. That's an average of about 7.5 wins a year since 2008. That's hard to believe. As bad as Miami's been, and everybody kind of has a general idea of the struggles Miami has had over the last 10 or 15 years. Averaging 7.5 wins a year, unbelievable to me. During that time period, you've had 4 different coaches: Randy Shannon, Al Golden, Mark Richt, and now Manny Diaz, right? Miami's last major bowl win. When was Miami's last major bowl win? 2004 in the Peach Bowl against Florida. 9-3 that year, you finished. I mean, again, unbelievable. Now, what's Miami done this year? 3-0, a win over UAB at home, a win over Louisville on the road, and a win over Florida State at home off this last week. And, of course, the big game at Clemson, which we'll talk about in a minute, coming up this weekend. Now, let's shift over to Tennessee. This is unbelievable, too. Tennessee last won the division in 2007. So, a long time, 14 seasons you're talking about there. Last conference title for Tennessee, 1998. That was the year they won the national title, 22 years ago. Here's Tennessee's win totals. We'll do the same as Miami. We'll go back to 2008. Here's Tennessee's win totals every year since 2008. 5, 7, 6, 5, 5, 5, 7, 9, 9, 4, 5, 8. 8 being last year. Here's how Tennessee finished each of those seasons in the AP poll going back to 2008. Unranked, 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 unranked. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years in a row from 2008 through 2014, Tennessee finished the season unranked. In 2015, they finished ranked 22nd and they won 9 games. That was with Butch Jones. 2016, they also finished the season ranked 22nd. Again, 9 wins, also with Butch Jones. The next 3 years, 17, 18, and 19, they finished those 3 seasons unranked. 4 wins, 5 wins, and 8 wins last year, including the bowl win over Indiana. 5 coaches for Tennessee during that time period. Of course, Phil Fulmer, Lane Kiffin, Derek Dooley, Butch Jones, our buddy Lyle, and now Jeremy Pruitt. Last major bowl win for Tennessee. Any guesses? Major bowl win. We're talking New Year's Six bowls, BCS bowls, championship games, that kind of thing. Last major bowl win for Tennessee, the national championship game in 1998, the Fiesta Bowl against FSU. Tennessee has not won a major bowl game in 22 years. Unbelievable. Now, we all know the SEC, generally speaking, is considered to be a tougher conference than the ACC. And I found a stat here that I think illustrates that. I said that Miami has played 12 top 10 teams since 2006, and they won 2 of those games. So Miami is 2-10 since 2006 against top 10 teams. In that same time period, Tennessee has played 33 top 10 teams. Miami in the ACC has played 12 top 10 teams since 2006. Tennessee in the SEC has played 33 top 10 teams since 2006. And Tennessee lost all 33 of those games. Tennessee is 0 for its last 33 against top 10 teams. Again, this isn't a trash talk video. I know some of these things are some stats that I use when I do the trash talk videos. This is to set up how important these games are this coming weekend for both of these two teams. I'm really not trying to make light of the fact that these two teams have been in the dumpster for the better part of the last 15 years. These 2 games are huge, not just for this season, but for the future of these 2 programs, I think. You can only sell hope and promise for so long when it comes to recruiting and even to boosters giving money and things like that before eventually they want to see a result on the field. I'm not saying that this is a must-win game for either one of these 2 teams or else their coaches are going to get fired or the recruiting classes are going to fall apart. I'm not here to say that, this is the line in the sand. Either they win these games this weekend or it all comes crumbling down. That's not what I'm here to say. But if either of these teams wins on Saturday, it would be a huge boost to either one of these 2 programs in recruiting, in morale. It would help confidence for this season. It would help the recruiting going forward for next seasons. It would loosen up the pockets of the big money donors and boosters. I don't think you can overestimate how important these 2 games are this coming weekend for these 2 teams. Of course, Miami is traveling to Clemson to take on the Tigers. It's a primetime game this coming weekend. They're around a 2-touchdown underdog, depending on where you look. Tennessee's traveling to Athens to take on a top 5 Georgia team. They're also about a 2-touchdown underdog, depending on where you look, between 14 and 15 points. Both of these teams are underdogs. I also think that Miami and Tennessee are in a unique position in that I don't think they have to win these games to gain some respect. Now, they can't get blown out, clearly, but if either one of these teams loses by 3 points, 4 points, 7 points, If either one of these games are a one-possession game in the second half, a one-score game in the fourth quarter, I think people who are watching those games will go, you know what? Tennessee's close, or Miami is close. They didn't pull it out today, but they're getting there. This is an almost type of thing. You don't have a lot of situations in football. No one likes the term moral victory, and I'm not going to insult either Miami or Tennessee by saying that a close loss could be a moral victory. I know that doesn't really exist in the world of college football, but I hope you understand the point I'm trying to make. Could Tennessee beat Georgia? Of course. Could Miami beat Clemson? Of course they could. We see upsets happen in college football all the time. It's hard to believe that two programs who have been at the top in my lifetime recently, Tennessee was a dominant program in the mid to late 90s and even into the early 2000s. We all know what Miami did in the college football world from the late 80s to the early 2000s. One of the most dominant dynasties of all time within college football. If you want to look at that 12 to 14 year period from the late 80s to the early 90s for Miami, they were the team in college football during that 10 or 12 year period, whatever it was. Tennessee in the 90s dominated the SEC. Those Tennessee-Alabama games, Tennessee-Florida games were some all-time classics. It's just hard to believe that both these two teams have fallen so far. And I think even more surprising that they've been down for so long. You see a lot of teams have a bad year or two. It's hard to think of any other programs that have been up for so long, but then down for so long, like Tennessee and Miami. And it is hard to understand and hard to figure out. Now, some poor coaching hires have had a lot to do with this, right? No continuity. You look at Jarrett Garantano at Tennessee. This is the first year he's been at Tennessee 4 years. This is the first time he's ever had the same offensive coordinator 2 years in a row. These things matter. Now, I'm not here to tell you that Garantano would have been a Heisman-winning QB had he had the same offensive coordinator his entire time at Tennessee. But when you're having to learn a new offense every year, that does have a negative effect. I don't really know what the point of this video is. Clearly, I'm a Georgia fan, and I hope we beat Tennessee by 111 points. It's just interesting to me. You've got these two programs, Miami and Tennessee. They've both been up here not that long ago. And again, not to trash talk, but they have been really bad. Not just bad compared to where they've been in the past. They've been bad compared to all of college football. These honestly have been two of the worst programs in America over the last 15 years. They both had high hopes heading into this season. Tennessee is into year 3 now with a new coach, Jeremy Pruitt. Miami's into year 2 with Manny Diaz. Miami brought in a highly touted transfer quarterback in De'Aaron King. Tennessee has one of, if not the best offensive lines in the SEC. So there was reason to be optimistic heading into this season. Tennessee starts out with a big road win at South Carolina. Then they blew out Missouri at home last week. Now comes the Georgia game, the top 5 matchup. Miami 3-0 with wins over UAB, Louisville, and in-state rival Florida State. They get a bye week to soak it all in. Now they get a chance to go prove themselves on the road at Clemson. It's just a very interesting week to me for both of these two teams. And I think these two teams have a lot in common when you look at the last 10 or 15 years. The fans are hungry. They want a winning program. They want national titles, conference titles, division titles. They want to be playing in big bowl games. They want all those things. And these are two of the most passionate, diehard fan bases in all of college football. And honestly, as a football fan, I have felt bad for them at times. Those fan bases deserve a better product than what their universities have been delivering year in and year out for the better part of the last 15 years with both those two fan bases. So I hope this video made a little bit of a sense. Again, this was not a trash talk video. You should be able to tell the difference by now between when I'm trash talking somebody and when I'm trying to have a serious football conversation with you. And I just think this is an interesting time in college football for a lot of different reasons. You look at the coronavirus and the weird scheduling and all this kind of stuff. But when you just look at Tennessee and Miami, where they've been, where they're at, the fact that they both have an opportunity on the same day this weekend to go on the road against a top 5 in-conference opponent and prove a point, I think is interesting to me. I think these will be the 2 most watched games of the weekend. I think these will be 2 of the most watched games of the entire college football season. Now, you've got a handful of other huge games, of course, Clemson and Notre Dame, Georgia and Alabama, Florida and Tennessee. I mean, you've got a bunch of huge games. But when you look at Tennessee and Miami, national fan bases, proud fan bases, a history of winning, a history of national titles and All-Americans and all that kind of stuff, and they've been down for so long. Both these fan bases are so desperate for a huge win, a program-defining win. Let's just be honest. If either one of these teams goes on the road this Saturday and upsets a top 5 team at their place, that is something that could change the direction of both of those programs 180 degrees without question. It's going to be an interesting Saturday. I'll be curious to see how these two games play out. Lucky for me, they come on at different times. Georgia and Tennessee comes on at 3:30. Miami and Clemson is the primetime game, comes on at 7:30. College game day will be at the Miami-Clemson game Saturday morning. I'm excited. I think this is the best weekend of games that we've had so far. I know you guys are excited too. Let me know what you think down in the comment section down below. Who's got a better chance of pulling off the upset this weekend? Tennessee or Miami? Now, they're both 14-point underdogs, so it's, I know it's not likely that either of them wins, but both of them could win. I mean, we see, like I said, we see weird stuff happen in college football all the time. Who do you think is most likely to pull off the upset? And if they can't win, how close do they have to keep it for you to go away from that game going, you know what? Tennessee didn't get this one, but they're heading in the right direction. Or you know what? Miami might have lost, but they're getting there. What sort of a point margin are you looking at? Would 7 to 10 points be enough to impress you? Let me know in the comment section down below. I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this video, and I'll see you again real soon. Have a good morning.
Damn it, loud!